Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Tuesday morning, progressives, and welcome to the July 29th, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile phone and text line. So give us a call. Find my show on Facebook, TuneIn Radio, Facebook Live, I should say, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and of course, you can email me at richard@WCPT820.com. Also follow me on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, and Substack. I'm everywhere. But right now I'm here in studio. Devin and our new good colleague Matt got us on the rails and doing what we got to do this morning. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and of course, iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, short versions and long versions, as I say every morning. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Most definitely make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. I've got a couple stories I'm going to talk about as the show goes on this morning. But today, on today's show, our guests do include a couple of folks that I will let you guys know about. Kind of a cool little way we're doing things this morning. We will have in studio with us at the 7 o'clock hour my good friend Enrico Mowatt, who is with Mirror Digital. I'm going to talk a little bit about some tariff issues and some other things that he's been observant of. And Robin Steans, who is one of the executives at Advance Illinois, will be on the phone with us in the 7 o'clock hour. And at the 7:30 hour, Dante King will be on the phone with us as well. So looking forward to those three folks being a part of the show today and helping us navigate through all the craziness that's going on. And I think that the beauty of having folks help you navigate is you don't have to paddle as hard. So there you go. All right. I got some clips that Devin and I put together, and obviously some current events that we'll be talking about as well. But right now, check this out, progressives.
Why not me? Is the question I had to ask. It's the question we should all be asking when there's a 34-count convicted felon in the White House, when billionaires are playing politician, right? We need to be asking, why not us? And there are structural barriers. I'm telling you, it is an uphill fight to be in this race, to be 25, young and working class, a woman, a first-generation American. It is not easy to be in this race. I didn't inherit a donor list. I don't have a legacy last name or big money behind me. I have you. And so I'm asking folks, are we going to do things differently? And that is the question you have to answer with your vote in 2025.
That's also the question we have to ask and answer when it comes to how we are going to be involved, no matter what our age is or what someone's age is, younger, not younger, medium age, or older, however we want to put it. It's a question of what we're going to fight for. And she definitely is going to be one of those up-and-coming candidates. And, why not her? Why not any of us? Not just running for office, but being involved in the process. And why not get involved? Why not find an organization that you can tap into and be part of what they're doing to make changes, and also what they're doing to kind of hold the line during this craziness and during this crazy time. I said yesterday that we may, in winning some upcoming races, we may have to lose some races to change how the party is doing what it's doing on a national level, on a state and local level. That may happen. It may not. But the one thing that definitely should happen is everybody should find a place to be a participant, active participant, and ask yourself, why not me? Why should I not be one to start an organization, start a walking group, start a calling group, a postcard sending group, all the rest? Make sure that you find your place and ask the question. I mean, I think it's such a perfect question. Why not me? Why should you not challenge yourself to find a thing to do, to get involved, to know that you, during this time, can if someone were to ask you this question in a crisis moment, what did you do or what have you been doing? You can say, here's what I did. Here's why I did it, and here's what the impact will be of it. I believe it's a huge opportunity, and sometimes it's just that simple question, why not me? Why should I not get involved? Or maybe to the positive, what can I do to get involved? Where can I turn? And so many people are doing this. So no one get the wrong impression, and no one get their undies in the bundle about this. I'm not yelling at anybody. I'm not, criticizing. I'm just saying, ask yourself the question, what else can I be doing? And it might be, this is the other thing you have to keep in mind, and I've said this before, you may not be able to do the thing that somebody else is doing. But here's what you can do. First of all, find out what it is that works for you. Find out that organization, find out that effort, and the list goes on. But there may be someone that just needs to know that it's okay to get out there and do the work. So sometimes all you can do, or you may be capable of doing based on income, based on access, your ambulatory ability, and that's a fancy word for getting around ability, all those things may not be boxes that you can check and say, yeah, I've got a full toolkit. But you know what you might be able to do? You know someone in your family that's very active. You know someone in your friends network that's very active. You have a business or work colleague that's very, very active. And you may not be able to be as active as they are. Pick up the phone and call them and give them some encouragement and let them know. I know you're out there fighting every day to stand on that wall, if you will. I know you're out there every day fighting hard to make sure that we, don't lose our democracy. Pick up the phone and just call that person and say, I got your back. Just want to let you know that I appreciate you being out there fighting hard. Sometimes that's all a person needs to hear, is that somebody else has got their back, and that somebody else is aware of the fact that you're out there doing the work. One of the reasons, and I get criticized for this, and I don't care, bring it on, when I have certain people on the show, certain politicians, I'm encouraging to them about doing the work that they're doing. I know that the jobs that they have as an elected official, whether it be Mayor Johnson or whether it be Lieutenant Governor Stratton or any of our elected officials on a state level or federal level, when we have them on the show, I'm going to offer them a certain amount of courtesy and respect. They have earned it to a great extent. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to, point out some things that I think they could be doing better or differently, or why they're doing certain things a certain way. But my position and how I'm built is to encourage them to win. It's to encourage them to do better and to do more, but not in a way that I'm just looking for the gotcha moment. It's better, I think, for us, and Devin made a comment earlier before we came on the air. We're Democrats. We're all over the place sometimes. We got a bunch of stuff going on. We're progressives. We're trying to include everybody in the conversation, and sometimes that means you're gonna miss some stuff. But it comes, I believe, that way of thinking, that way of being, comes from a place of wanting to see things be better for a larger mass of people. So when I have somebody on the show, whether they be an organization leader, whether they be a volunteer organization managing director, or whether they be an elected official, what I want to be able to do is let them know we've got your back. We need you to work a little bit harder, push a little bit harder, maybe be a little bit more creative, maybe listen to your constituents and other people a little bit more. But don't be afraid to walk into the room and knock over some tables, because we got you. We sent you there. So go knock over those tables and let the opposition know they're not colleagues until they start acting right. And you guys heard me joking with Congresswoman Robin Kelly about that a week before last, or was it last week already? Oh, my God. But the point is, why not you? Why not you be the voice to someone that needs a little bit of encouragement during this crazy time? Why not? If you can't do all the things that somebody else is doing, as I said, sometimes simply your voice of encouragement might be all they need to get up the next day and go out to that next rally, or go out to that next event, or make some additional phone calls to a member of Congress or to a state legislator. You never know. So just understand that that's an important part of this as well. You being a cheerleader sometimes is all somebody will need in this fight. Let's take a quick break, Devin. The number, of course, here is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line, and we'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In the midst of World War II, the 200 and 515th Coast Artillery Companies from New Mexico stood resolute against overwhelming odds. Composed largely of Hispanic soldiers, these brave men were stationed in the Philippines, where they faced the brutal onslaught of Japanese forces. Despite their lack of supplies, American and Filipino forces managed to fight the Japanese for 3 months. However, this was not a victory for the American and Filipino forces. As the American Army surrendered in Bataan, the U.S. and Filipino prisoners of war were forced into the infamous Bataan Death March. A grueling 65-mile forced trek under the scorching sun, marked by extreme deprivation and harsh treatment. Sadly, 829 men were never able to return home. New Mexico's veterans of the Bataan Death March are honored each spring with the annual White Sands Bataan Death March Marathon. People from all around the world join together in the desert at the White Sands to participate in the anniversary of one of the most tragic casualties of World War II. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. One of the things I also wanted to say is, gosh, we've lost some folks this last week. Ozzy, we lost Malcolm, we lost Chuck Mangione, and we lost Ryan Sandberg. So for those of you who may not be in Chicago listening to the show, legendary Chicago Cubs baseball player, Major League Baseball player. So he's known all over in the league, but lost Ryan Sandberg. So just sending good vibes to his family and, of course, all the fans that were big Ryan Sandberg fans. So keep it strong, y'all. Let's hit them with a few Choose Views news items, Devin. On this July 29th, 2025, the U.S. is to impose higher base tariffs. President Trump on yesterday, said that a blanket tariff between 15 and 20% is likely to be ultimately set for most countries. What a dumb thing to do. But an increase from the 10% base announced in April. A day earlier, the U.S. and the European Union reached a trade agreement that includes 15% tariffs on most EU products. That deal, which also includes 15% tariffs on automobiles, just arrived before the two major trade partners had threatened to impose 30% levies that would have delivered a hammer blow to global trade. All because Trump doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He does not. The tariffs are going to come out of your pocket. I don't care what you have to say for those who are MAGA or GOPers. It's going to come out of everyday people's pockets. You'll see. Boeing workers reject the contract. A union representing 3,200 factory workers in Boeing's defense unit voted to reject a new contract yesterday, raising concerns about a potential strike, even as the company prepares to outline positive steps under new CEO Kelly Ortberg. During its quarterly earnings report this week, the union said Boeing's contract offer fell short of addressing the priorities and sacrifices of its members in Missouri and in Illinois. A Boeing executive said the company is now, quote, preparing for a strike and has no talks scheduled with the union. Canadians suffer over U.S. car levies. Oshawa, Canada, the country's once promising motor city, is already feeling deep negative effects of Donald Trump's trade policies, even before the latest U.S. tariff threat is set to take place on Friday, August 1st. The city's unemployment rate is now upwards of 9% in the wake of General Motors' decision to pull back production of pickup trucks at a plant there. Meanwhile, Ford and Stellantis have idled plants in Toronto's suburbs. GM says its, quote, manufacturing adjustments are meant to lessen an expected blow of $4 to $5 billion in levies. Spirit Airlines furloughed some pilots. They announced that plans to furlough 270 pilots and demote an additional 140 as a carrier confronts reductions to its flight schedule. Spirit said the furloughs, which are scheduled to begin in the fall, are, quote, necessary steps to ensure we offer and operate as efficiently as possible as part of our efforts to return to profitability. Alrighty, last but not least, CEOs tout smaller headcounts. What's that all about? How small workforces are working. The heads of Wells Fargo, Union Pacific, and Verizon have all recently touted their slimmed down staffs and their approach to that, reporting to the Wall Street Journal. What was once a sign of trouble is now seen as a proof that companies are adapting and preparing for an AI-heavy future. It's not just layoffs, though. They are keeping their numbers down, and that are keeping their numbers down. Firms are combining jobs or leaving open roles unfilled. It's the managers and manager levels who are likely to get hit hardest by these types of reductions and consolidations of work. So there you have it, guys. A couple of Choose Views news items on this Tuesday, July 29th, 2025. Okay, so 1 second. Alrighty, we have enough time to cover this. So, talking about the automotive industry for a second, our good friend and colleague Rich Eberwan over at HeartlandSignal.com has posted a couple of really good articles that I want to cover and talk about for a moment. The first one is titled "American Automotive Companies Report Billions of Dollars Lost Due to Trump's Tariffs." Donald Trump's tariffs on imported vehicles and auto parts has cost General Motors, the United States' largest automobile manufacturer, $1.1 billion in the second quarter of 2025 alone, according to the company. The company also said its operating income for the year is projected to come between $10 and $12.5 billion under projection. So, what does this all mean? The Trump's 25% tariffs on all imported vehicles and auto parts that went into effect in May has been one of the tipping points in the projected losses, higher prices for consumers, and closures as well, as we just talked about with what's happening in Canada. Last Friday, Michigan auto supplier Detroit Axle announced that it will permanently close one of its warehouses and cut 102 jobs because of the disruptions to the automotive parts supply chain connected to the tariffs. Decisions to close, this is a quote from their CEO, decisions to close this facility are due to unforeseen circumstances, specifically the sudden imposition of government tariffs, which have significantly disrupted our supply chain and sharply increased the cost of goods. That's from CEO Mike Mushinesh, made in a recent statement. These changes have had a direct and unanticipated impact on our warehouse operations, making it financially unsustainable to continue operating this facility. Okay. Last week, I was talking a little bit about the ripple effect, and I was on Mike Nellis's Substack Live show on Friday, and we talked about the impact of the tariffs, obviously on the big three in terms of the automotive industry. How I see this, as I've said before, it's the after parts market that is going to be potentially devastated. Because, and this is one simple example of this company, Detroit Axle, essentially announcing that they're permanently closing. Permanently closing is, we saw a lot of that during COVID. So the problem that we all have to have with this is that the people in local communities, where these smaller to mid-sized companies go out of business, that the ripple effect is that entire community where those people live. So I'll give you an example of why. When people talked about the federal layoffs and the gutting of the federal departments and agencies. So let's just play this out. I've said this many times before because it's important that we realize that all those jobs that are being cut are not people just going to that will be losing their jobs in Washington, D.C. These are people that are going to be losing their jobs in other markets, in other cities. And then the ripple effect of that on people in those communities, on businesses in those communities. So companies like Detroit Axle are dealing with the same trauma. Because of the tariffs, now that business is permanently closing, and the people that work there no longer have their jobs, and the businesses that they spend their money at are going to see a reduction in the consumption of the things that those businesses sell, whether it be the grocery store chain, the local run grocery store, the mom and pop ice cream store, the repair shop, and the list goes on. And ironically, and this is where the word irony does have its place. The people who voted for Donald Trump to fix the things that he said he could fix that weren't actually broken, may be bruised when it comes to talking about the economy and the everyday person. Those are people, I don't know how many of the 102 people that are going to lose their jobs at this company, Detroit Axle, I don't know how many of those people voted for Donald Trump or voted for Kamala Harris or voted for the Democratic leaders in that state, in the state of Michigan. I shouldn't say that state, it's our neighboring state. I don't know how many people are, but let's just for simple math, let's say that 51% are Trump supporters or voted for Trump, and 49%, and I'm using that math to basically look at how the national election went, 78 million, 77 million. So we'll call it 51-49, or 50 and a half and 49 and a half. Would that be 49? Help me out, guys. 50 and a half and 49 and a half. That's the right math to make 100? Yeah, it is. Okay. My brain just went, Matt turned to me like, come on, dude, do the math. Okay. So let's just call it that. It's a half a percentage point of difference. 51 or 50.5% of those people, voted for Trump, and the other 49.5% voted for Kamala Harris. All 100% of them lost their jobs. But half of the people that supported Kamala Harris are suffering a different kind of pain because they didn't vote for that. They didn't vote for this. They didn't vote for seeing this kind of carnage take place. They were folks that got up in the morning, went to work, probably helped the person who voted for Trump with something in their lives. Who knows? I know I'm reaching a little bit there by design to make a point. Those folks did not vote for that. And when we didn't try, but we told the country that this is what would happen, 50.5% of the people said, no, not going to happen. And if it does, I don't really care, because he's going to mass deport all these bad brown people. He's going to mass deport all these people who are illegals. And they're eating the dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio. And so here we are. A business in Detroit loses its ability to function because of the tariffs. I mean, if I were the CEO, Mike Mushinish, I would get together with other businesses in the state of Michigan. I'd reach out and find another 10, 15, 20 businesses that are being impacted directly by the tariffs. And I would advise them to put together a class to then file a class action lawsuit against the White House, against Donald Trump specifically, for this reckless behavior, because it's costing people their lives and livelihood. It just is. This is on the ground reality. So, thanks to Rich Eberwine for this great post at Heartland Signal. You guys can go and grab that article if you want to have it to read and share with folks you care about. But let's take a quick break. Devin, the number, of course, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line, and we will be right back.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
It's called AMD, or age-related macular degeneration, and it's the leading cause of blindness over the age of 50. Dr. Mark Blumenkrantz of Stanford University.
This is a disease that occurs in all segments of the population, although it is more common in people that are older. It's a little more common in women over the age of 65. As many as 20 to 25% of the population may have some form of this disease. It looks as though it's associated to a greater extent with people with the lightest skin color and blue eyes, and we think that may have something to do with chronic light exposure. We do know also that people that have other underlying conditions such as hypertension, elevated cholesterol, and particularly people who smoke are at increased risk.
With macular degeneration, fluid leaks into the back of the eyes. Dr. Blumenkrantz says something called photodynamic therapy can slow or even halt the disease. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty showers and storms early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high in the low 90s. Winds out of the south around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, a slight chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Cloudy skies develop and a low near 72. Wednesday, chance for rain showers and storms, cloudy, high of 82. Thursday, a slight chance for rain and storms, a high of 76. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 75.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
It's Chew's View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Guys, welcome back to the show. I was reminded by you great folks out there that we also, in terms of people that we've lost recently, we lost Harvard mathematician and humorist and political satirist, Tom Lehrer. What did I say last week? We get older, things happen. Folks pass away. So before we left at the end of last week, I said, reach out to people that someone you haven't talked to in a while. And irrespective of your age, if you're a young cat, if you're an older cat or cat-at, reach out to somebody that you haven't talked to in a while. Just say, hey, just thinking about you. As much as we go through the craziness that we're going through right now, I think one of the powers that we have is to reach out to people that we care about and that we haven't maybe talked to in a while. For whatever reason, not pointing any fingers, but just do that. As I said last week, Uncle Richard's requesting that you reach out to somebody that you haven't talked to in a while. I did it with a friend of mine, and, he and I are going to get together in a couple of weeks. So, that kind of thing is important. And, when we lose people, we're reminded of that. And so please do that. All right. Couple of things happening live local and progressive today. Joan Esposito should be talking to Rick Smith, host of the Rick Smith Show, weekdays 7 to 8 p.m. Actually here, broadcast on WCPT. Stephanie Zimmerman, award-winning watchdogs and consumer investigations reporter at the Chicago Sun-Times, and Tom Haw, the co-host of the financial talk show Stocks and Jocks. That's live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5. Here on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by Ariel Julie, founder and artistic director of the Windy City Comedy Fest, August 7th through the 10th. That's Patty's thing. You guys know Patty's a great comedian as well as a wonderful host on CPT. Heidi Stevens, nationally syndicated columnist, director of external affairs at TMW Center for Early Learning and Public Health, and fellowship coach at the Op-Ed Project. Rita Vaughn Frost, forest advocate for the National Resources Defense Council, and Rick Perez, Jr., candidate for McLean County Board. That's Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7, WCPT AM 820, the Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Tomorrow on the show, we will have Abe Scar, director of Illinois' PRIG and PRIG Energy and Utilities Program. Of course, it's Wednesday, so our good friend and contributor Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 will be with us. And Mike Sozan, Center for the American Progress Fund Senior Fellow, will be with us as well. So we got a busy show tomorrow. And your calls are always important, so let's jump right in because one of our favorites is holding on the line. Good morning, Pam, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you. And thank you for what you do and the information you provide. I want to make sure that I say that. And thank you to all the team that makes it possible. Never take that for granted.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Thank you, Pam, for that.
Sure, absolutely. Mean it. Richard, I wanted to ask a question, but first I just wanted to say tariffs. We need business people to come on and speak truth about what these tariffs are going to do and how harmful they're going to be. And then also, Richard, just for the public in general, I'm at the point we need to have a state of preparedness, but then also the tariffs are going to be passed down to us. So I'm saying only buy the things you need. I mean, I don't know any other way to simplify it. Buy the things you need right now and put the things on hold that you desire. And so those are the basics, right?
You know, it's so interesting you said that, Pam. I'm always one to be mindful of the budget, just our budget in general as a community, as a society, but also on a personal level. And I would not disagree with you on that. I think everybody has to, and let's also be careful here, Pam. We don't want to say that people are not already doing that, but as an add-on suggestion, and I'm saying that to both you and me, as an add-on suggestion from Pam, and I agree with her. You know, take a moment and look at and say, is that needed right now? And I don't want anybody to deprive themselves of anything that they feel that they have rightfully, earned to do or to buy or whatever. But it is probably a good time for us to be mindful of our budgets. We are a consumer-driven economy, and we also have to recognize that. I mean, let's just be honest, Pam. The people at this auto plant or auto after parts supplier, Detroit Axle in Michigan, those 102 folks' jobs impact more than just the 102 people that are going to be without a job. It impacts their families, their immediate families, their indirect families, and the communities that they live in. So, we all want to be mindful of what may come as a result of some of these crazy decisions that this White House is making.
And my last question, and I'll hang up and listen to your response. I know you have other callers. Regarding the Democratic Party and the strategy, I'm still not clear, Richard, as to what the strategy is to combat, what we've just gone through with the last election. I'm a big proponent of what are you going to do about voter suppression. That's one. But then next, Richard, I'm just going to ask you, what do you see their strategy is? And as it relates to Texas redistricting so that they can maintain control, I think the Democratic governors, Pritzker, Gavin, I think they talked about the governor in Colorado. Let's go on and do what we need to do.
Yeah.
If we have that trifecta, we don't have to wait. Whatever Texas does, we need to go on the offense. And if that means redistricting in favor of the Democratic Party, just do it.
Pam, can I?
Time out.
I don't know what.
Yes,
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry, Pam.
That's okay. No, that's okay. No, I was just going to, because I know you have other calls I want to name. But let's just do what it takes.
Yeah.
To get this done and to regain control. And as I heard, and I'm not pulling this just out of the air. I heard some people talk about it specifically. I heard Joy Reid talk about this. She said, just do it and just deal with the legal aspects of it later. But and Joy Reid is killing it. I wish you'd have her on. She's killing it.
We're working on it. We are working on it, Pam. I thank you for.
But I'll hang up, Richard. What do you see the Democratic strategy?
I want to say a couple things to you. First of all, thank you for, as always, being so mindful and providing our listeners with your contributions. So I wanted to give you your flowers in that space. I also want to say I don't know specifically what I am anticipating. What I'm feeling is that the Democratic Party is assessing who is going to be their voice. I think that's what's happening right now. And sometimes when that's in flux, we don't know what it is or what the singular message is. I personally think the mistake that we could make is to make it be a singular message. And it can't be just that Donald Trump is awful. It has to be that, and here's what we're going to do. I've always said that the Democratic Party should do a better job of laundry listing 3, maybe 5 items that impact every person in the country. And that, to me, I'm still there. That's not complicated, and a lot of people can buy into it. Pick 3 to 5 things that everybody in the country, it will impact them in some way or another, or maybe 1 degree of separation, and then hammer on that, because all of those things, I guarantee you, are 3 to 5 things that Donald Trump is mucking up and the Republicans are mucking up. So by contrast, we can then push for the things that need to be done. What those are, I'm not, I'm going to be posting an article on Substack about what I think that they should be, but I don't know the answer specifically to that question, Pam. The other thing I will say about the redistricting, we are not in normal times by any stretch of the imagination. So I do not, I support in this moment, because of what we know is at risk. I think it's, for lack of better words, Pam, a patriotic thing to do for Democratic governors to say, oh yeah, really? You're going to do that in Texas? Well, we can make some moves too. I think I think we have to take that, or let me put it this way: that can't be taken off the table as a thing to do to get back the control of the House of Representatives and be able to have some impact on the Senate. I'm there already.
And Richard, let me just ask this: why not? Do you think is there any harm if we talk about repealing this nasty bill?
Absolutely.
I think immediately
right now
they should have been talking about repealing it.
First, so out of the mouths of every Democrat is, when we're for all of you. Here's for everybody, not just for you and me, Pam. Here's for everybody. This is fairly simple. Okay, so America, this is what the leaders of the House and the Senate on the Democratic side should be saying, and all Democrats should be saying a version of this. America, this bill is completely an awful bill. We know that it is. And here's what it's going to do to hurt so many people. Get us back in office. When we get back in office, we're going to repeal it immediately. Get us back in the White House, leading the Senate and leading the House of Representatives. We're going to repeal that bill because it's hurting all of America, not just Democrats. It's hurting you Republicans, and you know that it is. So admit it. Help us get back in power so we can repeal this bill so that your grandparents and your children who might be disabled have the support that they need to survive and live. That's the kind of messaging. That's what's coming out of my mouth if I'm at that podium and I'm talking to the country.
I love it. Just repeal it. It's easy. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thanks, Pam. Have a great day.
You too.
And thanks, as always, for your contributions, Pam. All right, guys, we're rolling kind of steady this morning, and I wanted to highlight another really great article that Rich Eberwine posted over at Heartland Signal. And this is kind of in the vein of what Pam was talking about a little bit in terms of how we've got to fight or be observant and be aware of what the Republicans are doing. 4 Heartland states where Republicans have obstructed direct democracy decisions. What am I trying to say? You guys heard me talk about this last week, and we have a clip that we might. I don't know if we got this one cleaned up or not. All right, we'll keep moving. Heartland Signal. What is it that I'm talking about here? All right. Missouri is repealing an approved ballot measure. Just one state. Earlier this month, Governor Mike Kehoe, Republican, signed House Bill 567 into law, a Republican-written bill to repeal the guaranteed right to paid sick leave. The provision, as well as minimum wage increases, was overwhelmingly approved by who, Matt? By the voters of the state of Missouri via Proposition A last fall. The voters of the state said, we want this. The voters did. And guess what? The governor, Mike Kehoe, a Republican, came in and said, nah, we're not going to let it happen. He went against the will of the voters. So vote his behind out now. I don't know, and I didn't have time to do the research, and I apologize. If Missouri has the recall option for its governor, then they should recall him, because the voters said we want this proposition in place so that it protects our wages. And he decided to say, no, I don't want it. Because who is it going to help? It's going to help the voters, but who is it going to hurt? not really, is the businesses that are writing checks to get his behind elected. So vote him out, Missourians. Whether you're on the left, I can't believe for a minute that if you are a Republican in the state of Missouri, that you would sit back and let this happen. Because if you're, a middle class or upper middle class or lower income person in that state, you're going to be impacted by this. If you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat or independent. So vote his behind out. Ohio, misleading ballot language. Last November, the voters of Ohio were given the choice to pass Issue 1, a referendum that would have stopped gerrymandering in the state if approved. Both sides of the issue claim that either voting it down or approving it would end in the same result, ending gerrymandering. Either way, it was voted down by a 54 to 46% margin. This was thanks to a massive misinformation campaign conducted by the Republican Party. Once again, misinformation, what was not properly written and clearly written on their ballots. Third state, South Dakota. More complicated petition requirements. Any way lawmakers undermine direct democracy in states, it's where it's available by passing laws that make the process more difficult. And South Dakota is running on steroids on that. The Republican-dominated legislature enacted House Bill 1184, which moved the petition moving deadlines up 3 months, making it significantly more difficult to meet the required minimum for bills and legislation to be brought to the floor. Signed into law by Governor Gary Roden. Once again. See, that impacts everybody, not just Democrats in the state. And Wisconsin, confusing language. Under current law in Wisconsin, the Attorney General's office is tasked with distributing nonpartisan explainers for ballot measures or constitutional amendments in the state. However, Republican-controlled state legislature has proposed Assembly Bill 207, which would transfer the power to write the explainers to the legislature. In other words, Republicans want to be able to lie and provide confusing language to the voters in the state of Wisconsin. So those are 4 states that have state legislatures and or governors, and in some cases both, where they're overriding the will of the people. But, hey, that's what some folks voted for. Rich Eberwine, once again, bringing us the great news at Heartland Signal. Thanks, Rich, for that. We're going to take a quick break. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line, and we'll be right back.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. During Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign, and now even, he had his rallies where he poorly danced to the YMCA. Let's take a look at all the musicians who threatened to sue Donald Trump if he used any of their music at his rallies. ABBA, Adele, Aerosmith, Andrew Lloyd Webber, The Animals, Beyonce, Bruce Springsteen, Celine Dion, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Earth, Wind & Fire, Elton John, The Foo Fighters, Free, Guns N' Roses, Linkin Park, Neil Young, Nickelback, Olivia Rodrigo, Ozzy Osbourne, Panic at the Disco, Pharrell Williams, Phil Collins, and yes, that includes Genesis too, guys, The Estate of Prince, Queen, R.E.M., Rihanna, The Rolling Stones, Spinal Tap, Tom Petty, and Twisted Sister. So if you're looking to buy some records or go see a concert, I consider checking those artists out. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show, 773-763-9278. I am excited about the fact that we've got our guest both in studio and that'll be on the phone with us this morning. And it can kind of calm me down from my frustration of what these states are doing to people who voted for certain things. And then to have either the state legislature or the governor of the states come through and say, nope, I don't want it. My big donors don't want it. And that's a problem. So we have to pay attention in that space. It's a huge problem. But our governor, Pritzker, once again, is doing something to help protect our citizens. And you guys may or may not be familiar with this, but Governor Pritzker just recently put together a wonderful, he signed another bill about protecting the citizens of the state of Illinois. So we've got a quick clip that we'll run for you real quick on Governor Pritzker and gun safety.
Too many in our state still know the pain of gun violence. Too many of our children are traumatized. Too many families and communities have been torn apart. It keeps me up at night that so many of these tragedies have been preventable. How many people have died due to the cowardice of politicians who kowtow to the extreme special interests that don't give a damn about the safety of our children? The General Assembly and I have gone toe-to-toe with these guys session after session. They're well-funded, they're backed by the big-time gun industry players, and they have no shame or remorse about the deaths their callousness causes. Well, I'm proud to report that this team of assembled Avengers behind me worked very hard to get yet another victory against the other side.
And there you go. One of our great Democratic governors, ours right here in Illinois, getting the work done. That's J.B. Pritzker. So kudos to him for once again making sure by signing into law the Safe Gun Storage Act, which requires owners to securely lock up their firearms when they are home. So he's doing it again, doing it in a good way. So we want to make sure that when I said earlier in the show about making sure we're encouraging our elected officials to do the work and to do better, this is what I'm talking about. I don't want any of our Democratic elected officials to fail. I want them to succeed. It's that simple. I want so by contrast, I want Republican governors like the governor in Missouri to fail because he's hurting the people of his own state. They voted to have that in place. That was their choice. That was their vote. That was their ballot measure. And he chose to make a decision to hurt them. That would be Governor Mike Keogh. So if you're a strong progressive, if you're a strong Democrat and you don't like that happening, give his office a call and tell him, hey, I'm in Pittsburgh. I don't like the fact that you're treating your people that way. You know, you might be out in Seattle. You might be in California. You might be anywhere in the country listening to our broadcast or any of our broadcasts. Give Governor Keogh in Missouri a phone call and say, hey, I heard that you decided to take away something that the voters and the citizens of your state had already said they wanted. It was a ballot measure. That means that the citizens have the voice. And you decided to take it away. So when someone runs up against you in the next cycle, I'm going to donate money to their campaign. See, that's what I mean when I say we can do a lot more than we realize to help in other places that we may not necessarily be in. We can make those phone calls. Doesn't hurt you to make that phone call to his office. If you guys want a copy of that article, send me an email at richard@wcpt820.com. I'll send you the article that Rich Eberwine wrote and is at our Heartland Signal site, or you can just go there and get it yourself. The point I'm making is I want to arm you with tools to be able to go out and get them. This is what we get. This is what we have to do. This is, Pam asked the question earlier, what is the Democratic Party's message? What's their focus? I don't know the answer to that. I know what I think it could or should be. But as an individual, this is where you can have, you've got some skin in this game. And this is where you can go, you can actually have an impact. Call a Republican elected official in a different state than you are in and let them know that this is unacceptable and that you are going to contribute to the campaign of the person that runs against that person in their next cycle. That's how we are impactful. That's how we are allowed and can get things done. So if you need that article, go to the Heartland Signal website or just email me and I'll send it to you so that you're aware of what these yahoos are doing in, red states. Just, it's unacceptable. So can we break a little early? Or We're good? All right. Let's break a little bit early because we've got, guests in studio. We've got guests calling in. We've got a lot going on, so I want to make sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible. 773-763-9278 is a Credo mobile phone and text line, and we'll be right back.
With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new Care Watch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The Care Watch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. The Care Watch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. Call us to get your Care Watch right now.
800-741-5819. 800-741-5819. 800-741-5819. That's 800-741-5819.
I'm Dr. Anthony Lazarowitz, and this is Climate Connections. Last year, Hurricane Helene caused devastating floods in North Carolina. And after the storm, rumors about the recovery efforts spread online, including false information about how much relief money the government was providing. Samantha Montano, an emergency management expert at Massachusetts Maritime Academy, says there are a few reasons why misinformation spreads after a disaster.
Some people have lost power, and so they're not able to get onto their phone, so they miss a lot of the information that's being shared. And then you also have this problem of kind of everybody sharing information where it might not be clear who actually has accurate information, who's an actual authority on the subject.
To separate fact from fiction, Montano suggests people turn to local news and local officials.
They are the ones who, because they are part of your community, are going to, in most cases, have the best sense of what is actually going on in the community.
And for questions about FEMA or other government aid, she suggests checking the agency's website directly if you can get online. As climate change causes more extreme weather, it's important to know how to stay well informed if disaster strikes. Climate Connections is produced by the Yale Center for Environmental Communication. To learn more about climate change, visit climateconnections.org.
Progressive Insurance with insurance for cars, home, boat, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and progressive.com.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. The AP's Jennifer King has the latest on what we know about a deadly shooting in Manhattan.
A man killed 4 people at a New York City Midtown office tower on Monday and wounded a 5th person before taking his own life. New York Mayor Eric Adams.
No words can describe this act of evil.
The gunman was identified as Shane Tamura of Las Vegas. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch.
Tamura has a documented mental health history. His motives are still under investigation, and we are working to understand why he targeted this particular location.
Tamura apparently drove cross-country before double parking a BMW outside 345 Park Avenue. Inside the lobby, he opened fire, killing New York City police officer Diderol Islam. He then shot a woman attempting to take cover, killed a guard and another man before taking the elevator to the 33rd floor, to the office of a real estate management company. He shot and killed one person on that floor before killing himself. Office workers could be seen running from the building and being escorted by police for hours afterwards. A search of the suspect's car uncovered a rifle case, a revolver, ammunition, and medication. Audio courtesy WABC. I'm Jennifer King.
And President Trump is wrapping up his trip in Scotland today with a ribbon-cutting ceremony for his family's 2nd golf course. The trip has included meetings with world leaders and time playing golf at properties his family owns. Trump says his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein ended after Epstein hired Trump's employees and said he kicked Epstein out of his private club in Florida. Last week, the White House offered a different explanation for the falling out and said the president had kicked Epstein out of his club for being a creep. And in Gaza, food crisis experts say the worst-case scenario of famine is currently playing out in the Strip. International pressure led Israel over the weekend to pause military operations in parts of Gaza, and international airdrops of aid have also resumed. This is AP News. A man who claimed to be in a fake relationship with a top women's basketball star has received a multi-year prison sentence. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports.
A 55-year-old Texas man who told police he was in an imaginary relationship with WNBA star Caitlin Clark was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison after pleading guilty to stalking and harassing the Indiana Fever guard. Michael Lewis from Denton, Texas, reached a deal with prosecutors in which he pleaded guilty to 1 felony count of stalking and 1 misdemeanor count of harassment. Lewis was arrested in January after authorities alleged he sent hundreds of threats and sexually explicit messages to Clark. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
United Health missed Wall Street's second quarter earnings expectations and says it now expects adjusted earnings of at least $16 per share in 2025. More stories at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty showers and storms early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high in the low 90s. Winds out of the south around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, a slight chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Cloudy skies develop and a low near 72. Wednesday, chance for rain showers and storms, cloudy, high of 82. Thursday, a slight chance for rain and storms, a high of 76. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 75.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time on a fancy water bottle with ultra titanium alloy metal. You're not sure why you need all that. I mean, it just holds water. But you're getting it anyway. Because if you're hiking near an active volcano and you accidentally drop the bottle into molten lava, your water will still be icy cold. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time. For water bottles. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile phone and text line. So reach out to us. Let us know. Thanks, everybody, this morning. Bob, Carl, Lois, the rest of you guys for the text, the reminders, the updates that you guys have sent me this morning. So this next hour is going to be a lot of fun. With us this morning in studio is my good friend, colleague, cousin, Enrico Mowatt. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here, and it's long overdue. Congratulations on the show, which has been running for a while, but sorry I'm late.
That's all right. That's okay.
In terms of joining you.
All right, the picnic is here.
Yeah.
And also with us this morning is someone that's been with us before. And I said during the interview last time, I said, Robin, girl, you got to come back because you bring the noise, you bring the heat when it comes to talking about education. So good morning to you, Robin Steans. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing as well as the world permits right now.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's a great, honest answer, and it is so good to have you back on the show. You've been a busy camper these last few weeks, and a lot has been happening, and you've been once again making sure that our children here in the state of Illinois are properly educated, but more importantly, that they have the tools that they need to be successful as students, that they're safe on all fronts. And you've been leading the charge in that space. Bring us up to speed as to what you've been doing. And just as a reminder, you guys, Robin is the head of the Advance Illinois project, and she is going to talk with us a little bit about the Children's Adversity Index. Help us better understand what that all means, Robin.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for it's a lot to hit people with at 7 a.m, but I'll forge ahead. Which, Illinois is now going to be one of the first states in the country to have something called the Children's Adversity Index, and what that And that's a product of law that required state agencies to get together and say, look, we want to understand what our children's likely exposure to traumatic and adverse incidents is at the community and at the school district level, so that we have a better understanding of where there is particularly strong need, and so that we can organize ourselves as a state to more methodically and systemically respond to that. And so over the last year and a half, under the leadership of the State Board of Education, agency leaders from across a whole range of agencies got together, and they ended up creating an index, which includes, I believe it's 14 indicators that you can get data on at the school and district level that tell us how likely is it that a student is dealing with something significant that is going to affect their mental health and their well-being, such that we're going to want to try to get resources there. So that's the adversity index. It actually puts all of our school districts on a 10-point scale, looking at all of these indicators, and I'll go into those in more detail if you'd like, to see who's dealing with what level of traumatic activity that we should be handling as a state better.
So when we talk about traumatic activity, traumatic events, what are the ones that I know that the list is probably substantial. What are some of the ones that are most common to anyone that you're assessing?
So they ended up coming up with, they reduced it down to 14 indicators, which they put into sort of 3 buckets. And the reason they could reduce it is there are some elements that are overlapping. If one's happening, another one is, you don't need to put them both in. So, for example, they wanted to understand if you look at the death rate of children under the age of 20 in an area, the juvenile delinquency rate, a rate of overdose deaths, the rate of child abuse and neglect investigations, the rate of children under the 19 who are uninsured. It gives you a feeling for where there are really high-risk things happening to young people. So that's the community risk trajectories bucket. They look at community barriers to economic progress, which correlates highly with poverty, which correlates in turn with lots of, it's called adverse experiences or traumatic experiences. So they're trying to understand which communities are below 150% of the poverty level, who really can't afford housing, where you've got a much lower overall education rate, less than a high school education, things like, what percent of the population has health insurance, things like that. And then lastly, they look to see where there are unmet needs, which is also an indicator. Like there's something going on, but there also is not a lot of resources available to families to respond to those. So they look at the rates of food insecurity, mental distress among adults, vacant housing, and imprisonment rates. And when you pull all that together, you get a really clear picture of which communities are dealing with overlapping areas of stress.
So the question that I wrote down when you were explaining that is...
I know, sorry, that was so much.
No,
I told you it was a lot for 7 in the morning.
That's what we do here. We bring... one of the beauties of being a progressive, liberal, democratic thinking person and persons is that we push ourselves to do a little bit better and to know a little bit more. So that's okay. Our audience appreciates folks like you, Robin, who were leaning into these very, very concerning things because... we've got to take opportunities to do the things that we can here in the state of Illinois. And I think we oftentimes, and you've said this before, are kind of a prototype of what other states can be doing when it comes to some of these issues. The word that popped in my mind, though, is where. And I wrote down geography and districts. So what are the findings in terms of where you see some of the higher levels of adversity, or where the index is off the charts relative to the mean?
So what's interesting, I think that before people were doing this, I was letting people know this is coming, and I think this is going to be a really useful tool. And there were a number of people I spoke to who thought, oh, that's just going to be Chicago. It's just going to show us that Chicago's got, needs. And certainly Chicago does. The overall, mean for the state on a 10-point scale is 5.66. That's where they fall in the adversity index. Chicago is at 6.85. So it is above the mean for the state. But it is not, I don't think it's even in the top 150 200 of the 851 districts. It is if you look at a map, and if folks go on the Illinois State Board of Education website, you need to search for Adversity Index ISB, and it will pop right up. If you look at the map, it's very clear that there are very highly stressed communities in every corner of the state. It is very much spread out, a lot of activity in rural areas, in part because it can be harder to get resources. Certainly, it's also true in urban districts, and poverty is an enormous factor. That is a huge common thread. But it's clear that every part of the state has very real issues that we've got to be better about systematically and systemically responding to.
So resources is a word that seems to be one of the connective tissue words. Resources that are lesser in inner city communities or in urban communities, suburban and rural. And so educational resources obviously are a part of this, but also just the everyday navigating through family and budgeting and working and the rest. So what are you seeing right now from a state level in terms of support to kind of push this, or not so much push, but to strengthen the areas where resources are lesser than?
I love that question, because to me, having this adversity index is a means to an end. It is not an end in of itself. This is information, and it matters only if we put this information to use. I would say that Illinois, like most states in the country, approach student mental health and well-being and that of families kind of idiosyncratically. There are districts and schools that do a phenomenal job. They work to be organized and systematic at the school and the district level. Other districts, not so much. And not because they don't care, but because they may not have the resources or the training, both of which, again, are really idiosyncratic. Some get it, some don't. We're not nearly tight enough, focused enough as a state in making sure that every school administrator, teacher has the training they need to recognize trauma, and that the school itself either has resources at the school or is connected to resources in the community that can meet student and family needs. And so I think what this underscores is that the state's got a lot of work to do to systematically, in every part of the state, make sure every school, every district is equipped to handle trauma, because every school and every district is dealing with it, many of them at very high levels. And I think the state's trying, but I think that's really the clarion call that I think comes out of this index.
So how much of this do you see in, we talk about this in the framework of resources, how much of this do you see in more resource positive communities, and how do they deal with it differently than resource lesser communities?
Well, there's sort of two buckets within that. You've got some communities where you've got more families who have means themselves. So if they are seeing that a child is dealing with issues, they have access themselves in the private care market to, counseling or health or other interventions. You've got so they can sort of respond because there's just more family means to bring to bear. Other communities, there may not be family means, but they've gotten themselves organized to tap into, to bring community resources into schools. Are there health clinics? Are there doctors? Are they bringing more counselors to bear? And the state's been supporting that. We now have social and emotional learning hubs, SEL hubs, which are designed to help schools and districts tap into community resources at the school, which is where our kids and our families are. One of the great things about schools is we can find everybody there. So we've been investing in that, but, I think it's a fight every year. There's big budget crunches. We know that we're losing dollars from the federal level. Are we going to be able to maintain? I think this is a reminder of why those kinds of investments are so badly needed, because families may not be able to intervene on their own, and they may need that additional help that a school or a district can provide if they are bringing those resources into that school.
I spoke earlier about one of our colleagues here, Rich Eberron, wrote an article about the impact of tariffs in the automotive industry, and the article really gets into talking about how a particular company in the Detroit metropolitan area is going to have to shutter its doors because of the tariffs and how it's going to impact. This is an afterparts market company, and they got to lay off 102 people or cut 102 jobs. And so when we talk about resources, a lot of times, one of the things that we forget to look at is how Reagan talked about trickle down was a bad idea. But this is where trickle down is a negative impact. It's like a boulder rolling downhill. Those 102 jobs are people who are spending money in their community.
Right.
And those dollars that are spent in that community are indirectly kind of the resources that you're talking about. And how those resources, once they go away, then that community then suffers because of this crazy regime that we have in the White House.
Well, not to mention that those families now have health care, and that is health care that's available to their children. If you look at the reconciliation bill that just passed, there are huge they're trying to save trillions of dollars in Medicaid, and the only way to save trillions of dollars in Medicaid is to throw people off of it. And we are, with different eligibility requirements and more, we're going to see a reduction in Illinois alone of somewhere of between 200 and 350,000 families. Don't hold me. That I would say don't quote me, but I'm on the air. But,
okay.
I think everybody's still trying to figure out the number. But you're talking hundreds of thousands of families and kids who are not going to have access, and they're not going to have access to SNAP Medicaid. And again, the ripple effect of where. So we're going to have more. Whatever I can promise you, whatever this map is right now that shows where we are dealing with these adverse. This index is showing a severity of need. That's about to go up. That is not getting better. That is about to go up. And so the state is going to not only need to maintain what it's doing, it's going to need to intensify the supports it's doing. So, again, that I hope is the takeaway for your listeners. Like, we got to stay the course here.
Well, and that's the reason that, yes, it's early in the morning, but it's also the reason why having someone like you on to talk about it's incredibly important, because these are some of the topics, Robin, that people forget about, because there is a ripple effect based on what's happening on a federal level, and why states then have to try to bear up that responsibility. Do you? And this is not meant to put you on the spot, but it's really to kind of get your observation. How ready or prepared do you think the state of Illinois is to assist or to help in this area, given the fact that means that almost $1 billion in grants for mental health services is going to go away, and that's part of what the Department of Education is levying. So, where do you think this? How ready are we?
So, let me start with some good news, which is I think the state has been focusing on a more systemic approach to student well-being for a number of years now. In addition to these social and emotional learning hubs that are trying to connect resources, there's also been a pilot. The REACH pilot, the Lurie Center for Childhood Resilience, has been working with hundreds of schools and districts to help them develop trauma-informed plans. How can we be trauma-informed at the local level? So there's been a lot of foundational work that's going on. So that's good, and we should be proud of our state for leading on that and investing in that. I think when you talk, though, about how ready are we for the onslaught that's coming, I mean, I don't know, because I don't think any of us fully appreciate yet the financial hit that we're going to take. But I think the idea that we're going to be able to replace all of the lost, SNAP, the nutritional aid, health assistance, mental health, just the billions that were going into mental health, I think it's unrealistic that states, not just Illinois, but all the states in the country, are going to be able to backfill all of that. So I think, having nothing to do with whether we're prepared and whether we're doing the right things, I just think that the hole that's about to open is going to be game-changing, and we should be very concerned about it.
Yeah, we're talking with Robin Steans, who is the president of Advance Illinois, one of the leading organizations here in the state of Illinois, if not the country, when it comes to a variety of things, but specifically making sure, as I like to say, that there's advocacy working toward better public education and providing students with the ability to be aspirational about college and career and furthering their civic life. So that's who we have, in case you guys missed it at the top of the hour. Also with us in studio, and thank you to Robin, as well as to my good friend Enrico Mowatt, who is one of the business leaders that you talked about in terms of having impact in the work that we're doing. and I appreciate you being with us this morning.
Absolutely.
Say hi to Robin.
Hey, Robin.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. And the work that you're doing is so stellar, because being able to take data like that and understand, or try to understand, having teenage sons, 20 and 17-year-old, and seeing some of the challenges they face based on, what they're exposed to, media, shortcomings in education in some instances. It's really critical, and information is power, as Richard has alluded to, and it's really critical, and it's great work that you're doing.
Thanks, and I agree.
So, Robin, as we wrap up, I want to give you another couple of minutes just to talk about where you see us having the greatest amount of impact right now, and how folks can go about kind of leaning into implementing that impact.
I think that if there was one silver lining from COVID, and then it was maybe the only one, I think that it alerted people that student well-being and mental health is not somebody else's problem, that there are very few families and communities that are not dealing with that in serious ways. I think this adversity index underscores that, and it reminds us this is not something I can ignore. This is something we as a state have to deal with as methodically as possible. It's not going away. In fact, with all of the various pressures being created right now across the country, it's about to intensify. And so I think the biggest takeaway is talk to your schools, ask them if they have, if they're a trauma-informed school, and do they have a plan for supporting students who are dealing with significant issues? And ask how you as a parent or community leader can help. Ask if there are resources from the community that have been connected to the school. So just get informed. The more that I think parents and community leaders express interest, express awareness and support, the more likely it is that we will continue to invest in this and prioritize this. Because when the chips are down and we are scarce on resources, and it can't spread as far, it's going to be what the parents are demanding, what community leaders are talking about that makes it through. And I want it all to make through, as you know. But I think this is absolutely essential. If we don't help students be stable and be well, they simply cannot learn. They will not be able to thrive. So we've just, like it or not, convenient or not, this is a conversation we just have to keep having at the state and at the local level.
Absolutely, it is. And I appreciate you being unapologetically emphatic about that. So, Robin, I said it before, and I'd say it again today. We are going to have you back. This is an ongoing issue, and if we're going to talk about it, you and I can be at the tipping point of talking about it and making this be incredibly important. Can folks find two things? I want to let folks know how they can find you, but more important in this moment, can folks get a handle or a copy of the index and the results and the study data that you used? Is that possible or not?
Why, yes, Richard. Yes, they can. They can go on the Illinois State Board of Education website and look for the adversity index. Literally just put in your Google search or whatever you use, ISB, which stands for Illinois State Board of Education, ISB, adversity index, and it will show up. It'll be the first thing that pops up, and it's super easy to look at. And your listeners can look at the map, and you can find your district, click on it, and it will give you a detailed look at the adversity levels within your particular area.
And then last but not least, Robin, how can folks find you, find the work that you're doing at Advance Illinois?
www.advanceillinois.org. And we welcome it, so you can find out what we're up to and find out how you can join forces.
Absolutely. As we get the school year starting right around the corner, maybe we will work to have you back in early September and talk about some of the transitional things that you saw with kids getting back to school and just some of your overall observations. Does that sound okay?
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much. Always enjoy a chance to talk with you.
Absolutely. Me too. Robin, thanks for being with us this morning. Have a great rest of the week, and thanks for all you do.
You as well.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
That's serious.
It's serious, right?
That's serious info. And she beat me to it because I was going to ask the question, twofold. One, as a parent, a concerned parent, what do you do? How do you get this information? And how do you find out, hey, is my school district, is where I am, a high index, area?
Yeah.
And also even having that conversation with your child, saying, hey, What are you experiencing in school? What are you seeing? How are your needs being met, not being met? Yes, households know shortcomings, income flow, what they have, how to manage their resources. But you can also, when you see this, ask the students themselves, what's going on in your school? What do you feel the school is lacking? And again, just having those conversations are important, and just knowing. And this is a great way, another data point that's so critical that you never thought, kind of culminating that data in this way and labeling it as adversity, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and what's all, along with what you just said about we all know what's happening. At least we like to believe we know what's happening in our own, like immediate geo-targeted circle of family. Sometimes folks don't know. No. But I think what this is going to also be a good tool to for folks to have and have access to is when she talked about you can look on the map and see. Yep. Because if you don't know your area has some things going on, it might be an opportunity to get involved with those local community organizers and leaders to maybe find out. I'm a big advocate. I have been for as long as I can remember, but I've particularly been drilling down on this with the show, is to get involved. During this crazy time, we don't have the luxury. Maybe we deserve to have the luxury to not have to be, still fighting. Yeah. But we don't right now. No. And it's fighting on all levels. So getting involved with an organization like Advance Illinois and seeing what they're doing is a great way for somebody where they may not be a political person necessarily, but they understand the importance of politics and how it impacts this.
Absolutely.
So this might be their thing to get involved in, to indirectly have an impact.
One of the things that we always talk about is civic engagement. And, the one thing that I think is so interesting, as a lot of people are kind of experiencing some of the results of what this administration is doing, they're realizing there's connective tissue, and that, the face of adversity educationally in this state is going to be varied. It's going to be different.
But it's real.
It's real. It's real. It's rural. It's in the city.
Highland
it's
Park.
urban.
It's downtown Chicago.
It's everywhere. It's black. It's white. It's Latino. It's East Asian. It's all these different things. So having said that, when there is an issue, the issue doesn't. It knows no boundaries. It also knows no ethnicities. It knows. It just knows. It's just the issue. So there is a rallying point and cry for people from a civic engagement standpoint, because they realize, oh my goodness, you guys have the same problem. Your index is, they said the threshold of 5.66. Chicago's at a 6.8, I believe is what she said.
Yeah.
But there's a rural area that could be just as high as Chicago.
Right.
And there's a commonality that can be talked about, which then rolls up to, okay, we've got to do something about this. We got to talk about it. The data's saying this. Let's come together, even though we're different communities that have different faces and different kind of idiosyncrasies as far as how we operate community-wise. We can still have this issue that needs to be resolved.
And let's use our this is one of those opportunities where using resources, and the number one resource is connecting with folks to say, hey, we got a similar challenge here.
Yeah.
And now let's as best we can put aside of all of the other things that are the differences, and let's figure out how we can solve this one. And this is where the index is so important. Yeah. Robin's great, and I love having had her on before, and I challenged her in a respectful way. I said, we got to have you back because you got a lot to say in the space of education. So y'all reach out to Advance Illinois, Robin Steans. That's STEANS. She is one of those folks that's leading the charge when it comes to what I'll call protecting our children and looking out for our kids.
And lastly, this administration has only been in place for 6 months.
Yeah.
Only for 6 months. Having said that, that adversity index is going to fluctuate and change and become exponential as some of the kind of dismantling of education from a federal standpoint, which does, to your point, trickle down to the state and then local. So, buckle up.
Yeah, and be ready to fight, y'all. Because, like I said at the beginning of the show, why not me? Because it's you have more ways to be involved than you realize. Let's take a quick break. In studio with me is my good friend Enrico Mowatt, who is one of the executives that you want to hear from and get to know a little bit more about. We'll talk about a few things on the break. When we come after the break, we'll have our other good friend, Dante King. We're going to talk about some stuff. Y'all stay tuned, 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
dad founded Chicago Community Acupuncture.
My dad did too.
That's because we're sisters.
Yeah, but it's true.
You know, acupuncture has helped billions of people, but some people are still afraid of it.
Why?
They're afraid it'll hurt, or that it won't do anything to help them.
That's silly. We get acupuncture all the time, and it's like less than a mosquito bite. And everyone knows that acupuncture can help a bunch of different problems.
Not everyone knows that.
Someone should tell them.
I think you just did.
So if you'd like to experience top quality acupuncture at half the price of other places, come visit us at Chicago Community Acupuncture at Milwaukee, Devon, and Nagel. Call 773-853-0920, 773-853-0920, or our website, ChiCom Acu.
Chicomacu.
ChiComacu.com.
Or ChiComacu.com. Chicomacu.
Either way, we'd love to help you. Start feeling better today.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In the heart of World War II, while the skies rumble with the roar of combat, a groundbreaking squad of pilots emerged from the segregated South, the Tuskegee Airmen. An elite group of African-American pilots defied the odds with their courage and skills. Trained at the Tuskegee Army Airfields in Alabama, they became the first black aviators in the U.S. military. Despite facing racism and skepticism, they soared through the skies with unmatched precision, escorting bombers and earning a distinguished reputation for their bravery. Their red-tailed P-51 Mustangs became a symbol of excellence and resilience, and in 2007, the Tuskegee Airmen were finally honored as they were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. These aviators didn't just fight for victory in the air, they battled for equality on the ground, forever altering the landscape of the American military and inspiring generations to come. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty showers and storms early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high in the low 90s. Winds out of the south around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, a slight chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Cloudy skies develop and a low near 72. Wednesday, chance for rain showers and storms, cloudy, high of 82. Thursday, a slight chance for rain and storms, a high of 76. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 76.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
A whites-only community could be coming to Missouri in 2025, and yes, you are hearing me correctly. An actual group called Return to the Land is trying to build a segregated whites-only town near Springfield, Missouri. And this isn't parody, and this is not satire. This is happening in America right now. The founder says that they want to return to their roots. But come on, guys, let's be real. This isn't about heritage. This is about hate. This is about building a safe space for white supremacy under the guise of community. And what's even more disturbing, these people spill so emboldened these days that they're not even hiding it anymore. They're openly promoting racial segregation like it's normal, like this country didn't literally fight an actual civil war to end this. This is what happens when politicians feed the lie that diversity is the problem. This is what happens when you have people in power pushing the idea that America was better when it was whiter. They want to isolate, they want to indoctrinate, they want to raise their kids in a world where no one challenges their racism, their ignorance, or their twisted version of history. So, here's the question. How in the hell are we letting this happen in broad daylight? Where are the zoning boards? Where are the civil rights investigations? And where is the national outrage? Because if they succeed here, this won't be the last. It'll literally be the blueprint. We are watching the normalization of white nationalism one community at a time. And if you're not disturbed by that, you're either racist yourself or you're just not paying attention.
Wow. There's a lot there. But the dude makes a good point, and there are other pieces that out there that are talking about this this conversation about whites-only towns. This is what's so funny. I've said this before. I have to sometimes close the laptop because it's tempting to look at and see. And Devin's heard me say this as Henry, because inevitably there's going to be that one person that's being very hyperbolic, maybe a bot. that's saying, that's saying things that, why aren't you talking about this? Why aren't you talking about that? But what we're talking about is an issue that is incredibly important to a lot of people, and that is the conversation around segregation. Whites only towns, not like they haven't existed before or up to this point. But this is craziness. Let's I know you have 1,000 things to say about this.
So, as I looked at the clips and I got some of the sound bites, one of the things that kind of stood out was this individual who was kind of the spokesperson for it. He said this is about preservation of white American culture.
White American culture.
White American culture. And
can
I'm just curious because white American culture is
what okay, wait, so stop right there. We're going to welcome to the show, we've had on before, our good friend, Professor Dante King. Good morning, Professor. Doc, what's going on? How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm sitting over here I'm like, I can't even believe this is a real conversation. But.
Well, so let me ask you this question. What is white American culture? Because that was from what one of the guys who was being interviewed, I think it was the NBC clip, saying that they want to preserve white American culture. What is that? And I got a comment I want to make about DNA in a moment, but go ahead. I'm sorry, Doc.
Well, I think we have to first understand what is whiteness, because that in and of itself has never been defined. So what I'm trying to uncover in my book, as you know, is what does it mean to even be white? How is white defined? What does that mean? It's been around from what we know as far as a political, I would say a legitimate legal and political term for probably 400 years now. But, in its emergence, it was rooted in exploiting other people and stealing from other cultures. So what then does it mean to have a white culture? That's what I'm trying to figure out. My eyebrows raised when I heard that.
Exactly, and that's in my notes I have WTF in terms of what is that culture and how you define it. And if you look at the facts, which are being erased and whitewashed and they're trying to absolve themselves of their cultural history, which is appropriation, oppression, colonization, all the shuns that I can kind of get into.
The shuns and the isms.
But and that's the big question mark that I have. Like, what are you trying to preserve? Just call it what it is, man.
Yeah. So, Doc, let me throw this at you. I was on a show with a good friend of mine and colleague. His name is Hal Sparks. Hal's a great dude, really down with all the things that we need to be down with. And he said something to me that I found really interesting. And we touched a little bit on this whites only community goofiness. And he said something that I thought was profound, but certainly you'll have some thoughts about this. He said, you know what's interesting about DNA testing? He said, when you do DNA testing, there isn't a result that comes back that says white. Or that doesn't say American. He said it says that doesn't say white or doesn't say American. It comes back with different results. And so I'm giving you the baton to kind of talk about that and how you would assess the statement that he made.
Well, and I appreciate you positioning this conversation in that direction. That's what I talk about as it pertains to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, where she's focused more so on genetics. Any DNA testing that you do is going to focus on genetics. It's not going to give you or yield a racial result, because there is no such thing as a race per se based on like a phenotypical scientific nature or structure. That doesn't exist. And so you're talking about people who possess or don't really possess an ability to produce high quantities of melanin, who have now assembled themselves. In my book, Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness, I define white culture as an experiment of conspiratorial assemblage. And I say this because you can literally see over time that certain groups that were excluded from being white, for example, Germans, when they began to come in the 18th century, they were not considered white. They were actually considered mongrels, or people who were invading American culture or white culture. And so you see this group that really is experimenting with itself, admitting people from various European communities, and over time, anyone who is perceived as phenotypically acceptable is admitted into this group. So what then does it mean to be white when we're talking about an idea based on a group of people's perceptions about themselves and their attachment to this color concept? And I think it's not only sad and delusional, but it's extremely dangerous. And the one point that, the other gentleman that's on here was pointing to was that this person said that, they're looking for a Hitler-type figure who will protect their interests. And so we're talking about people who are willing to do whatever they need to by any means necessary to achieve and accomplish a goal of what they believe is protecting themselves and ensuring that they are not genetically annihilated, which and it is an obsession. I think it really we need to study this as a pathology. It is just profoundly disturbing.
Yeah. One thing, I got to throw this in here because art imitates life, and I'm a big movie person. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah, we do.
And there's a scene from one of my favorite movies of all time, Stripes, where Bill Murray is quoting, and he's trying to rally these ragtag groups of soldiers, and he says, "Hey, we are the wretched refuse." Yep. Our forefathers were kicked out of every conceivably decent country and came here to America. And that line, again, look it up. That line resonates.
It's so true.
It's so true. And when you talk about Dante, that even people that were German were considered mongrels. So were Italians. So were Polish. So were and this is not speaking ill of any of those groups.
No.
But and again, you look at gangs of New York. The reason why there were gangs of New York and there was such turmoil on the East Coast, Ellis Island, when all those people came, they were all clawing for and fighting for some level of humanity.
Exactly. Humanity. And Doc, one of the things, it's so funny that Rico mentioned that movie, because who I was on with yesterday, mentioned the same line, the literal same line. And so that's so incredibly impactful and important to this conversation. And at the same time, you guys have heard me say this. Rico's heard me say this in private conversations. I've said it on the air. Doc, you and I have shared this sentiment. What it really shows me, really, really down to the core, is how difficult it is, and this is part of what you've been saying, Doc, for the, quote, white American ethos to acknowledge that they are not the most they're not the strongest, fastest, best, entities on this continent. They're not, and it's becoming more and more and more and more exposed, because if it weren't, then they wouldn't be working so hard to pull back the things that all the other groups have achieved. They've made it about the other groups are awful, they're nasty, they're dirty, they're criminals, they're rapists, all this thing. They made it about that, but in fact, it's about the fact that all of the other communities have surpassed proportionately where they are, and without the head start that they've had. And so now, let's have a return to the land that y'all stole in the first damn place.
What land?
What land are you talking about? I mean, and so let me say this, and then Doc, I'm gonna give you back the baton. For all of the Caucasian listeners to this show across the country, let me be perfectly clear. I am not anti-white. Okay? Let me be perfectly clear for any knucklehead out there that wants to think that way. I'm not anti-white. I'm not anti any community. I'm pro every community. Yep. I make that my business. But you are not going to be allowed. And I've said this before, people of color, and specifically black people, we respect where we are, we respect what this country represents to us, but we are not our ancestors. We stand on their shoulders. Doc, you got the baton.
That's right. Well, I think, when we study the history of this country, we have to understand that nothing that exists within our institutions, within our structures, has happened because people have been oh so great and oh so brilliant. This is not about meritocracy. It has not been about intelligence. It's been about force. It's been about achieving, power and positionality through force. And that is true for the ways in which different regions throughout this continent were, some people will say questionably invaded. Others will say, wars were fought or whatever. But we know that there were invasions that took place. We know that there were entire regions of people who were murdered. We know that then Africans were brought into this continent for the most part and trafficked, and not only trafficked, but human sex trafficked, and that America built its productivity, its gross domestic product, its GDP, the way that we measure productivity, by exploiting people through their free labor and also running sex factories. Yep. And I think it's important to come to the truth, to speak the truth, and to acknowledge the truth of this place rather than live within the myth of a delusion, so that we can understand and trace violence historically into the present. And so what we're talking about is this age-old belief system and cultural group, this culture that has been established where people are preoccupied with this idea of themselves as white, as a racial group that is distinct from other people based on their inability to produce high quantities of melanin. And if we go back even, for example, to Abraham's senatorial debate in 1858 against Douglas, he's saying that he's concerned. He says he will say, in addition to what he's saying, that there's a physical difference between white and black people that will forever forbid us on living together on terms of political and social equality. And he says within this speech, and I think this is so important, he says, I, as much as any other man, am in favor. He said, I'm concerned with white people holding the superior position, with the superior position being assigned to the white race. And so if you're concerned about that, then you will do anything that you can to diminish, to degrade, to dehumanize, to exploit people that you consider non-white, people that you consider other. And that's what that's what this country's history has been based upon. And when we go back, for example, and we're talking about the people who didn't want other groups to become white, it's a group of people that consider themselves white, Anglo-Saxon, and Protestant. And so we have to understand what this obsession is all about, but also that it is not real, it's not scientific, it is not, it has not been legally defined at all. It is a political force. It's a political group.
There's no data. We were talking about this earlier, Doc, and I want to throw another log on your fire. It's not data-based when it comes to that, because it's
not at all.
Because of one of the things that you said it so quickly that I want people to hear. I'm going to replay this. It's not scientific. It's not scientific. They've tried to create a narrative that it is, but in actuality, it's the furthest thing from science, because if you talk to anthropologists will tell you, based on the data and the science, how our society has originated. Yep. How it originated, how it's manifested. So when people want to have this conversation, I'm like, you're going down a dark path, no pun intended, because I happen to understand from talking to the people that are the scientists that there is no science, there's no data that backs up this color of or lacking of melanin is better than the other folks that are out there,
which is scientific, by the way. Melanin is scientific.
Melanin is scientific. So, Doc, you get to ring the bell for that wonderful word. So I want to throw something else at both of you guys as it relates to this. And this is sort of a business conversation / data conversation with this return to the land. Some of this is about resources, okay? Because Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the governor of the state of Arkansas. She hasn't said a peep yet. Not a word yet about the resources that may be allocated to these groups. And that's the part where I'm sitting back and kind of waiting to see how they're going to navigate this, because if resources suddenly start to get funneled, which they already have been over the years, from communities of color to this return to the land, I'll stop there. Rico, baton to you.
So one thing that I think is also interesting in terms of the resources, and I did a little, not fact checking, but looking at, and Freedom, Georgia, if you weren't familiar, almost 100 acres of land legally and financially acquired by a group of African Americans, of black folks in Georgia, because of the atrocities of 2020, which obviously ignited a lot of different things in terms of Black Lives Matter and movements like that, social justice. But the purpose of Freedom Georgia was to create a safety because folks in Georgia didn't feel safe. Now, again, they're not incorporated as of yet. No resources have been funneled to them. They have not built anything as of yet. They're still working on that 5 years later. To your point, how in the bejesus is this town in Arkansas? These folks are building all these things. Where do they get these resources?
150 acres of land. I mean, the list goes.
Do they pay for it?
And if they did, that's fine. But I'm talking about, like, when we start getting into conversations around roads, and electricity, and all these
infrastructure.
How's that going to be? Where's that coming from, Doc?
Who's going to put a grid for these guys?
Where's that coming from, Dr. Dante King? Where's it coming from?
Well, we never know. It could be coming from Elon Musk. I mean, these people have a lot of support. Yeah. These people have a lot. I mean, I'm not going to say these people, but this ideology, the ideology of white supremacy that has been around for centuries now, has tremendous amounts of support. And I don't think we can ever underestimate, the conspiratorial nature and magnitude that the things that are possible when groups come together on a stance like this. They can find funding and resources from any and everywhere because, remember, they are part of the group that is in power.
And check this out too.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Check this. This is the other part. They're excluding themselves from any multiculturalism, any integration, any non-Christian folks. And this is the one that really makes me chuckle, because this is why when I see people say, well, you guys are just talking about a black. No, this is an American issue, because they also are excluding themselves from non-Christians and LGBTQ brothers and sisters. So think about this for a second. You're white and you have a child or relative or whomever that's part of the LGBTQ community, and also, and separate from that, not Christian, they're not allowed there. No. So they're not just saying we don't want black folks there. There's or any sort of quote diversity or immigrant. They don't want anybody that doesn't fit their narrative. And what cracks me up about the LGBTQ part is I can't wait for them to have their Brokeback Mountain moment.
Oh, this is going to happen without question.
Right? I mean, let's be honest. And I'm not poking fun. I'm just saying this is the standard that they're setting. We all know that that's going to happen, and that's great. But how are they going to navigate? You know what I'm saying, Doc?
Absolutely. There's a book that came out some years ago, and it's called Not Gay, Sex Between Straight White Men. And it's by an author by the name of Jane Ward. And in this book, she talks about how for centuries, supposedly straight white men have claimed that identity while participating in gay sex. Yeah. And how that is also an instrument of white privilege, white male privilege. And you're right. And I think I can remember countless stories of conservative politicians, white men, who, have these positions of they're against gay people, they're against LGBTQ, and then the scandals come out.
Yep.
The scandals come out. And they're with, young males on the island, or, they're taking them away in their cabin for the weekend. Seriously, There
are things that are coming out in terms of certain apps that promote promiscuity among gay men, and the correlation between activity on those apps and the Republican National Convention. And that it is documented in terms of the preponderance of activity that occurs. One thing, Doc, that I think you said that I think is absolutely brilliant is that this is a pathology in terms of this behavior and this obsession with whiteness. We thought the absurdity of the South African farmers that were being given refuge. Oh, please come to America. We'll set you up. There's a place for you here. And that absurdity is now transcended to this whites-only town.
Return to the land.
Return to the land that you stole to preserve your culture, which is exactly what?
Buck up, y'all.
One thing I think I'm curious is if they're trying to preserve their culture, they're not going to be able to watch any football or basketball.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, I just, Dr. Professor Dante King, author, and just a great dude that makes sure that we stay plugged in to the stuff that we may not want to talk about. But thank you again for being with us, Dante. Always great to hear your voice. How can folks follow you real quick?
Thank you both. You made my morning. Please go to DanteKing.com. Get the book. It's called Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness. Thank you both.
Thanks for being with us, Doc. We'll talk to you soon and be safe, okay?
You too.
All right, bye-bye. I love me some Dante King because he's unapologetic.
No,
he's I had a caller the last time the Doc was on that just went after me saying he's saying that all white people are bad. It was like off the rails, and I actually rarely do this, but I had to kind of end the phone call.
Yeah,
because I was like, he did not say that all white people are bad.
No.
He actually held a seminar. And he went through a series of questions. He asked people various questions about their whiteness.
Yeah.
And it came to the conclusion. And one of the people in the seminar said, "Yeah, I guess I am probably unknowingly racist." And he said, that's where a lot of people are trying to get to, is have that conversation with yourself, have that acknowledgement, then you can move forward. And but anyhow, I love it.
And most important, being pro-humanity doesn't mean like
you're anti
something else.
And that's the thing that's so awful about how our country has manifested. It's that if you are pro something that's to improve another person's life, you're anti something else. Don't you get that a rising tide lifts all ships? It doesn't take away from anybody. It makes everything better for other people.
Yeah, and there's something that's going viral right now, and I don't want to butcher his name, but there's a journalist who has been interviewing or talking to these people around Robin. I don't know if you've seen this. I've got to send you these clips where he's talking about immigrants are good for the country.
Oh, Mehdi Hassan.
Yes.
Mehdi Hassan. Do we have that clip that we can play, the first one real quickly, where he's talking to...
and this one woman talking, he said, I think immigrants are great for this country.
It's brilliant.
And she's pushing back, and she basically leans into what Doc is talking about, where she says white immigrants are okay.
Right.
Because she talks about her parents, well, they're naturalized, so they did it the right way. He goes, but I'm an immigrant and I'm a naturalized citizen as well. I did the same thing to your parents, but they're white immigrants, so that's different. It's
I know.
Like,
how much we don't have enough time. Okay, all right, we won't do it. But no, you're right. It's Mehdi Hassan. Y'all need to. I'll tell you what it is, and tomorrow we will play. We've got 2 clips that we'll play tomorrow, and it's Mehdi Hassan. It's called "Surrounded," and he sits in a kind of across the table from another person. And it's sort of in a round circle where other people who are sitting with red flags or blue flags, I think.
Yeah.
Basically, they're either saying the person is off, or they're on, or they're right, or they're wrong. Check it out. Just Google Mehdi Hassan and "Surrounded." It will open your eyes to some conversations that people just don't realize.
And it lands the plane on where we are because people are fueled by their emotions, not by their intellect.
This is true.
And people aren't necessarily cognizant of, and they're not fact checking. They're just speaking in hyperbolic terms and just saying things in terms of how they feel versus truly understanding certain facts, certain things, and not even basing anything. Listen, I'm always right when I'm upset.
Yeah. Enrico, Mowatt, Dante King, Robin Steans, all great folks to have on Choose Views today. Guys, thanks for being with us. We appreciate everybody and your calls and your support. As I always say, guys, take a deep breath and make your life count. We will see you tomorrow.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer. And again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international.